All right, guys. Brock Purdy has been seemingly blowing up over the last couple of months. They just beat the Dallas Cowboys to move on to the NFC Championship game. And we got to figure out if we have Brock Purdy on our teams, what are we doing with them? Are we selling them? Are we holding them? If we have Trey Lance on our teams, what do we think is going to happen? Are we trying to buy Trey Lance if we don't have him on our teams because his value has decreased? What are we doing? Because right now, Kyle Shanahan seems like he can put any quarterback into his offense, and it doesn't really matter, right? His scheme has been fantastic. They have a good defense. So is this all a facade, right? Is Brock Purdy just some guy that can just plug into this lineup, or is he going to be the starter for the 49ers in 2023? These are all things that we're going to try and figure out. But first, if you haven't already, go ahead and put a like on this video. Subscribe to our channel if you love playing Dynasty Fantasy Football. Now, if you've never played Dynasty Fantasy Football and you want to join, put it in the comments. I've been thinking about creating a league from this channel, a Trades and Grades Dynasty League. So if this is something you've never done before and you want to join a league, now would be a great time to do that. So put in the comments, let me know, if it's worth it. We'll put a little money down, right? Nothing crazy, but something to make it so we have something on the line. And maybe we can create a fun league with a bunch of people here in our community. Yeah, that's it. So let's get into this breakdown of Brock Purdy and then Trey Lance as well. So I think the first thing we got to look at here is, who is Brock Purdy, right? Where did he come from? All of a sudden, just balling out, taking him to the NFC Championship game, right? So Brock Purdy was the last pick in the NFL draft from this past year. So he's a rookie. He was Mr. Irrelevant, 7th round, last pick in the 7th round. And he's from Iowa State, decent quarterback, Iowa State. I mean, obviously you're going to be pretty solid if you're being drafted into the NFL, but it was more so a guy that's going to be on your team just to make sure that you have a body, just in case the worst things happen, which is Trey Lance gets hurt, then Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt. So now we bring in Brock Purdy. But to his, give him all the credit because he's done a fantastic job. There's a lot of people that probably couldn't have done half the job that he has. But we got to figure out if this is just, if we have him on our teams, is this the time to sell now? So let's look at what he's done so far this year in the regular season. Since he came into the starting position, he went 1 for 14 out of 170 attempts. So 67% completion, pretty solid. 1,374 yards, 13 touchdowns, 4 picks, which I would say is pretty solid in the 2 games they've played so far in the playoffs. Against the Seahawks, 18 of 30 for 332 yards and 3 touchdowns. Fantastic game, right? No picks. Playing against a division opponent in the playoffs, very difficult to do. They won 41-23, just beat the Cowboys. Cowboys had a fantastic defense. He went 19 of 29, 214 yards. No picks, no touchdowns. Pretty average game, but he managed to get the job done. They're going to go play against the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. So right now, if you have Brock Purdy, what is the going price to sell him? I think is like the key question we're trying to figure out, right? Are we trying to sell him high? And if we go through and we look at the Dynasty Nerds Dynasty GM trade browser, right? If you guys don't have Dynasty Nerds, I highly, highly recommend it. I'll put a link in the description for you guys to click on it. If you use the code NOAH22, you get 15% off. And it is only the cost of a cup of coffee a month, right? It's like, and you can change, you don't have to get the highest package, but it is extremely cheap. And the amount of things you get is fantastic. I won't go into detail, but the trade browser is one thing you can use. Type in any player, and then you find out what trades have happened throughout all of Dynasty. That's MFL, Sleeper, you name it. They have almost every single kind of format on here. And so we're going to go with super flex leagues. We're going to see what you can get for Brock Purdy. So looking through the trade browser since the new year, so this is in the last couple of weeks, we have this trade, Brock Purdy for Donovan Peoples-Jones in a 23-second. I think this is a very fair trade. I think you at least have to give a second at this point. But then you're getting Donovan Peoples-Jones. He had a decent year. This all depends on, do you think Brock Purdy is going to be the starter next year, right? I think this is a pretty fair trade because in Superflex, quarterbacks are worth a ton, right? So even if he's not going to be the starter next year, if that's a late second and Donovan Peoples-Jones, it's very well worth it in order to see if you can possibly get a starter for next year, because that'll be extremely helpful for your team. He's at least a quarterback too for next year. I mean, in my opinion, he's at least a quarterback too. So right here, this is a trade you could be looking to do, right? If you have Donovan Peoples-Jones, you have a late 23 second to go get Brock Purdy. This is a trade you probably want to make. Now, here's a trade if we have Brock Purdy that I would be looking to do. And this is Brock Purdy and a 23 third for Russell Wilson. Now, I understand Russell Wilson had a terrible year. And in my opinion, someone who is a Pro Bowler, right, went to the Super Bowl, probably not just going to fall off the map as hard as Russell Wilson did. Now, I get it. Character concerns, kind of an odd guy, whatever. But Brock Purdy wasn't even a starter, much less any value at all in Dynasty. And now he comes in, and then you can get a guy who is proven in Seattle. And then I think personally, Nathaniel Hackett had more to do with the woes for the Broncos than Russell Wilson did. Now we'll see, but this is a bet I'm willing to make. You'd get a viable starter, whereas we don't know what's going to happen with Brock Purdy. Russell Wilson has the contract. You know he's going to be on the team next year and for years to come. So if you have Brock Purdy and you're looking to sell, this is a trade that I would probably do. Now we'll do one more. And this one I think is, just you almost have to accept this. And that is Brock Purdy for a 23 first and a 25 second. Now 25 seconds, that's way down the road. But 23 first, you're taking that, right? Especially if it's like early to mid, which it's probably not. It's probably late. But that would be a fantastic way, especially right now. This is a great time. Value's high. He might not be the starter that might bring in Trey Lance next year. We don't know. So that's something I'm looking to do if I have Brock Purdy. And again, these are all real trades. It's not speculation. These are the things that have happened. So every league's different, but see if you can try and figure out what people are willing to give up for Brock Purdy. Now, we need to figure out what are we doing with Trey Lance. Now, here's my hesitation, and I've never been big on Lance. In the preseason, people had him as high as like quarterback 8 in Dynasty, quarterback 7, and I was like, what are we doing? Because he hasn't played a game. Really, he hasn't played meaningful games since his sophomore year in college, which dates back to 2019. So by the time he plays another snap, if he plays another snap this fall for the 49ers, it'll have been 4 years since he has played for just one meaningful season. Go back to 2020 as a junior, played one game. 2021 comes in as a rookie, and he gets to play in technically 6 games. 2 of those, he just came in really for like a couple snaps, and he had a handful of games in which he had the full game. And in those games, he had a 57.7% completion, 603 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 2 picks, and then 4 sacks. But here's the thing with Trey Lance that we're looking at, and that is his rushing upside, right? We look at the rushing floor, guys like Justin Fields, Jalen Hurts. That's what we want to see. And in those games that he had, and we'll say basically the 4 games because he played in 6, but really started in 3 or 4, he had 168 yards on the ground and 1 touchdown. So that's something we're looking for. That's really the only reason why people like Trey Lance. But we go into this year, starts the first game in monsoon against the Bears, went really badly. Can't really say a whole lot about that. But this year, he went 15 of 31 for 194 yards and a pick. Right on the ground, he was he had 16 attempts for 67 yards. So the attempts were there. And again, they were running the ball a lot against the Bears because it was basically like a just complete rainstorm. It was horrible conditions. So hard to make much of this season. But again, it'll been 4 years since he last played a meaningful game. And so for those reasons, I've always been worried because we haven't seen anything from him. And the prices are way too high for my liking. Now, if we go look at what he is on Keep Trade Cut, what the community is on him. He's at quarterback 14, which I still feel like is a little high based on the fact that we still haven't seen anything from him. But quarterback 15 is Kenny Pickett, and I'd much rather have Trey Lance, the upside of Trey Lance, than Kenny Pickett. So if you had to choose between the two of them, those are guys that I'm looking at. I'm picking Trey Lance. If we look at overall players right now, a guy that's going above Trey Lance that I would look to sell for Trey Lance plus is Christian Watson. While he could be a fantastic wide receiver, we don't know what his future's like. We don't even know if he's going to have a quarterback with Aaron Rodgers. Um, and so if you can sell Christian Watson for Trey Lance, I think it's risky. I think they're both risky players, but that is a trade that you might look at in like a year or two and be like, wow, because quarterbacks and superflex are a big deal. You might be like, wow, that is a fantastic trade I made right there. So let's look at some trades that have happened for Trey Lance and see, should we be doing these? So this one, as I just talked about, Trey Lance for Kenny Pickett at 23 third. We're doing Trey Lance there. Kenny Pickett looked okay this year. He's got a starting job. So that's more it's more than we can say for Trey Lance. But again, the Trey Lance upside with the rushing floor, I think you just got to go with that, right? I mean, I get Kenny Pickett. He's going to be in the Steelers offense. He's got the weapons. But we've seen what Brock Purdy can do in this San Francisco offense. I think this is the biggest point, is what can Trey Lance do in this offense if Brock Purdy can do what he's doing, right? So I think we're probably going to have to go with Trey Lance. Here's another one I'm looking to do to buy Trey Lance. We are getting Damian Harris and Trey Lance for Dalvin Cook. Now, I can take or leave Damian Harris. That's besides the point. It's basically Trey Lance for Dalvin Cook for me. And getting rid of an aging running back before he falls off for a young quarterback who has upside, this seems like a great trade. And this is after the playoffs. So I don't really understand why people are trading for a aging running back in the offseason. If you can make this trade, great trade for you. But that's definitely not a trade that I'm looking to make. If I wanted running back, I'm not going to be getting rid of a possible quarterback one with rushing upside. Because if he doesn't play for the 49ers, they're going to get rid of him. He's going to go somewhere because there's a lot of places in the NFL that need quarterbacks bad. But we'll do one final one here. If we're looking to buy a 24-second, a 23rd-second for Trey Lance, that's an absolute smash. We're doing that all day long, couple seconds for a possible quarterback one with rushing upside. I'm not a Trey Lance guy. All right, you'll hear that first. I'm not huge on him, but we have to take value where it's at, and that right there has a lot of value. So I hope that helped you out, you guys, with the conundrum at the San Francisco 49ers quarterback position. If you like this video, like I said, appreciate it. Subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.